This is the Son of the Law podcast. Hey everyone, welcome. Welcome to the Son of the Law podcast. I'm your host, Jay Christopher. And joining me in my home this morning is Dr. Michael Stephenson. Hi, Michael.
How are you?
Doing well, thank you. Thank you for coming.
Well, thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. And before we get going here, I'd just like to say thanks to the audience for listening and encourage you all to find us on Spotify, Apple, and now YouTube. I started that here just recently, and so it's the same content, but on another channel. Had a guy here in town basically say, I've never listened to a podcast in my life, but I listen to YouTube. So we found a way to put this sucker on YouTube. So now we're on there. If you'd like to see us on Instagram, you can find us at Son of the Law Podcast. And as always, I love the good old-fashioned Gmail. So sonofthelaw.podcast@gmail.com. Please don't hesitate to reach out and let us know what you think of the show if you have any constructive criticism or you just want to say hey. We're trying to grow the show base too. So if you would please share this program with your friends and family. Think about us in that next uncomfortable pause in a future conversation and maybe say, hey, have you listened to the Son of the Law podcast yet? If you haven't, you should check it out. All right. Let's introduce Dr. Michael Stephenson, fellow baseball parent. We were chatting here just before we got started. And many of you are going to know, is it Michael? Dr. Stephenson? And I was at this down lower. Is it Michael, bruh, doctor? Like, what do we call you?
It's Michael.
It's Michael.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll stick with Michael. All right. Fellow baseball parent. I love watching baseball next to you and your wife. Andrea, very snappy personality. You guys have a great relationship, always very witty, playful. And from the outside looking in, and no reason to believe otherwise, you have a very healthy, awesome, dynamic relationship.
We do. We're getting ready to celebrate 20 years of marriage, and definitely my best friend, and I couldn't imagine doing it without her.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I see you everywhere, and I don't know, and maybe you can educate me on this. District policy maybe to have administrators at all these school events. I think that's awesome. That's how many people might know you. Because we kind of see you there and feel that support of the school leadership. Negative though, I wonder if it's a little much to be at everything. Right? How do you feel when you got something every night of the week?
There's certainly a lot of it. I'm very blessed with a strong admin team around us though, to keep us doing what we need to do and being that presence there. So my job makes it much more easier in that I show up, I get to watch, I get to hear and see and witness things that our kids are doing, and then I get to leave.
Yeah,
it's a different role as a superintendent. Previous as a principal, you definitely have a lot of extra duty with the extra duty, but my role as a superintendent in Lawson is pretty much just coming and being there to support kids.
That's awesome, and I can tell you for certain that they appreciate it. Hey, they'll be like, hey, did you see Dr. Stephenson was here? Or, other people came. They came to watch us play. And I don't know. Yeah. That makes them feel good.
And I love sports. And and not only do I love sports, I love activities. I obviously as a ag teacher myself for many years, going and being a part of kids and seeing them succeed is part of the magic that makes education what it is. And so that opportunity to be a part and to see and witness is just what makes me go.
That's awesome. That's what it's all about. Okay, yeah, all around nice guy. We've covered that. Accessible, reasonable, and logical. I'm going to go back to accessible a little bit. I grew up in Independence, Missouri, big time district. It was 5A at the time. I think it's probably still 5A. But the administration of a given district is often like on high, right? That's Mount Olympus. We don't know these people. They're doing a great job, right? They're serving, but I'm thinking about other school districts in the area, multiple schools, diverse issues that don't necessarily involve the superintendent with the day-to-day affairs of, individual teams.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay. So here, and having the access that we do in such a small town, I think it's great to get to see you and get to know you. Found you to be smart, considerate, really genuine compassion for the community and school programs, which we'll talk through today. But it appears to be more to you than just a job. And I love that.
It certainly is. I've my entire life has been built around public education, and then obviously we're in a climate right now where we're seeing and hearing an attack on public ed, and we're connecting ourselves to national rankings and world rankings and where we are in the world. But I will tell you, the difference between us and the 39 maybe other countries that are ahead of us right now in some math score is we are a collective group, and we take a lot of different ideas and we put them in this melting pot of a public school, and we're expected to be successful with that. And it's no different than in Lawson. We're rural, and we may all look very similar to each other, but there's a lot of differences between us, and being able to take that together and put it into practice is pretty amazing stuff.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, and it's obvious too, right? I mean, you can tell you care. You can tell you care about the issues. You can tell you care about the people. One little example I had was when you and I met to kind of pre-brief. We did that virtually, and behind you on the wall in your office, you generally think the way people decorate their office spaces or decorate any space that's important to them, you put the thing that's most important to you in the center. And so, a man with your degrees and titles and designations, you might expect to see a doctoral certificate right in the middle, or, some other item that's personal and important to you. But what I observed in your office in that prime space was a picture of you and previous students, like what, maybe 13 years, you said?
14 years.
14 years. So tell us about that decoration. I don't recall exactly.
When I was getting ready to leave Mid-Buchanan, I'd spent 14 years at Mid-Buck as an ag teacher, and I had the opportunity, and I was blessed with a lot of amazing families and a lot of amazing kids through that time, and had a lot of success. My last year there, or last FFA banquet we had, the chapter officers at the time had put together a going away gift for me, and they had taken and put in had an emblem made, and that was the focal point of this piece of work. And then they took a picture from each of the yearbooks from the 14 years of our chapter pictures and officer pictures, and put those together. And I cherish that, and it's always been, even when I was in Stewartsville as the principal and then moved into the superintendent's role and then came to Lawson, it's always been kind of that point of where I wouldn't say I look at it every day and I reflect deeply, but it's that point of remember where you came from, and no matter superintendent or what the role is in Lawson, at the core of it, I'm always a teacher, and I have the heart of a teacher, and I had a lot of great time there, and good memories, and I cherish that very much.
That's awesome. Well, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself? Maybe where you're born, raised, how people might know you otherwise?
Well, I was born in I was actually born in St. Joseph, to be I guess factual, but then I grew up in Plattsburgh, Missouri, from the time I was from birth until fourth grade, and kind of a part of my story that is unique into what I am and who I am is that when I was a year and a half old, I was put into foster care. My biological father was an abuser of my mother and of me, and so that started when I was a year and a half old. And so I remember, even at a year and a half old, just north of Lathrop is Turney, Missouri. In Turney, Missouri, there's a little old school building, four-room school building, 2-story. I remember riding on a bus going to Head Start and going over to Turney, and lived with foster family at the time, and going over there for that. And then I would be in and out of my home with my biological parents off and on. And a lot of summers I would go spend some time with family, and that would take me in and kind of be that saving grace for me for those 2 or 3 months. And then it always seemed like I got sent back to home and would go to school. And then somewhere along that way, my dad, or my biological dad, he had a rough go of it.
Sure.
And so
Sure.
when I was going into 4th grade, my father had some struggles and was taken out and removed from the home. And then as he was coming back into the home towards the end of that school year, I remember going to court. My mother we had to go to a family court and stuff, and they removed me from the home, and they sent me to a foster family in Gower, and that's where I started the 5th grade. And then from that point, I stayed in Gower, and then going into 8th grade, my biological parents signed rights up on me, and I became a ward of the state, which, kind of think about, you were kind of an orphan in some ways. And then the Stephensons adopted me going into 8th grade, and then that's where I went for the remainder of my high school career, and then went from there on to college at Missouri Western, and had no idea what I wanted to do when I went to Missouri Western. Actually, I was one of the part of the last group of ag business majors out of Missouri Western. Missouri Western had the largest acres per university in the state of Missouri of farmland, and they still own all the farmland there. And so it's kind of cool in that regard. And went from there, and then went up to Northwest, became involved with the ag program. I'd been an FFA in high school, and had a lot of good time and a lot of good memories with that. And a lot of my friends were becoming ag teachers, and so that's kind of the path I took, because I didn't know where else to go, or where to land. And so ag ed was where home became for me.
How about that? And then you've been in Lawson now how many years?
This is 3rd year that I've been here.
Okay. And what do you think of our little town compared to some of the other little towns? Are they all the same? You know, we kind of look the same.
Yeah, I think so. I think everybody has, their little quirks that make them unique, and every small town, I believe, is much similar to larger towns as well, that everyone compares themselves to others, and there's that perspective that we're better, or that we're more elite, or we're, whatever it is. I remember as a kid coming over to Lawson. Obviously, I grew up in Gower, and kind of middle school sports, high school sports was my first experiences coming to Lawson. And I remember coming into town and thinking like, oh, well, Lawson, they must have a lot of money, because of, when you came to the school, or, it was like Lawson was this big community compared to where we were coming from. And it was a long ride over here. And then now as an adult and living here, I realized that my perception was far off, that we're no different than a Gower, than a Plattsburgh, than a Lathrop. It's all within the sense of community and the pride that comes with it. And I think that is, if I would say one thing that makes us very unique, is even when I first started coming over here, looking at the job and preparing to make the transition to come to Lawson, everything in this community is Lawson Cardinals.
Right.
I mean, the school is the epicenter to our community, and that shines so brightly for our school, for our students. The support we have as a school is immense, and I would guess to say that it's probably the best support system of any of the schools in the KCI.
Yeah, I could see that, and at the same time, I also feel like I can see the similarities of the nucleus or central network of all these other small towns too. When we come back from vacation, sometimes we'll drive through little town after little town, and we count Dollar Generals on the way,
Yep.
And so it's like, just thinking about it, driving from St. Joe, I mean, you're going to hit a Dollar General just out of St. Joe, and then you're going to hit one in Gower, and then Lathrop and Plattsburgh.
You really know you're making it then when you get a market.
Okay, that's right. That's right. So anyway, I'm loving that. Well, glad to have you here today. And, it's like I said, it's one thing to know the man and the title, and another thing to know somebody through lighthearted, rapid fire questions. So we got a couple here for you, and, feel free to elaborate on a couple of these. I will say that pineapple on a burger is a very hot topic, and how you PB&J, also a very hot topic. So please feel free to elaborate. Is it okay to put pineapple on a burger?
Oh, I think so.
Okay. That made you some enemies. I'm just going to let you know that fires people up.
Pineapple on a pizza, like Canadian bacon and pineapple. Like that's, other than Supreme, that's probably my favorite.
Yeah, you go pineapple on a pizza. Some people say, yeah, you just ruined it. That
No,
goes in the trash. Carissa thinks that's Hawaiian, and that's where that's the best. All right, how do you PB&J?
Lots of peanut butter, and I am a strawberry preserves type of guy.
Okay, you have a special bread?
Wheat
bread, just
regular plain old wheat
Love
bread.
it. Love it.
Yep.
Fantastic. All right, coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Summer, winter?
Well, right now I would say summer. I like the winter, but there's something about sunshine and warm weather that I'm definitely looking forward to.
Gotta have it right now for sure. Books or movies?
Movies.
Morning person, night owl?
I'm a morning person.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Thank God. I don't know what I'm going to do the first person who answers that as a cat person.
Yeah, there's...
I'm not sure I understand cat people.
They have their I'm sure they're great.
Yeah, we're gonna just leave that one there, aren't we? All right. How about dogs or cats? No, we talked about that one. Phone call or text?
Probably text, and that's come with age, because I think the older I get, the more I do not like the surprise of what a phone call brings me. So a text is much better.
I can only imagine. Particularly, there was a time, and I never ever took it seriously, because I think if I had taken it seriously, the job needs to be taken seriously. But back 10, 12 years ago, before Lawson had done some of its recent developments and whatnot, somebody said that I should consider running for mayor. And I was like, if I run for mayor, then everywhere I go, that's the only thing people are going to want to talk to me about. And
I think that's pretty accurate.
yeah, right. So I'm thinking,
and when are we getting the bridge?
That's right. that would be the one right now for sure. So yeah, I can imagine. That's a good answer. And sweet or salty or spicy or savory?
Probably all of them.
All of the above. Love
Yes.
it. Love it. Adventure or relaxing?
Relaxing.
Okay. Travel to the past or travel to the future?
I'm all for the future.
Introvert or extrovert?
Extrovert.
Fantastic. Farm fresh eggs or store-bought eggs?
Right now, either one are expensive, and
$5.
It's insane.
$5 a dozen.
Well,
at
and then
Walmart.
I was watching, and I had to kind of laugh at it. There was a episode on, maybe it was the Today Show or Sunday morning yesterday, and they were talking about, and they were showing how you could create your own farm, farm fresh eggs in the backyard, and you could buy the coop, and you could buy this, and you could buy that, and all this things. I'm thinking, like, just buy the eggs. You're going to spend a lot more than your $5 a dozen by buying all the equipment. Those eggs are going to get awfully expensive.
But it's the principle.
It's
of
the idea of it.
All right. So farmer's market or grocery store?
I like to avoid both of them. And
online, ship it right to the house.
Yes, absolutely. My wife would say I do not know what a grocery store looks like, and she's pretty accurate with that. But
that's fantastic.
Farmers markets are pretty neat, and then just for the experience of it.
And then ag ed or ag tech?
Oh, it's ag ed.
Ag ed. Yeah, that was kind of a gimme there, wasn't it? All right, a little more philosophical here. What do you think is the most important thing we can do to find meaning in life?
Work. I believe we were all put here to work, and there needs to be a sense of duty in that, and that we also need to learn or relearn maybe to how to work together. I think there's such division, and there's such a complex of that you're either with me or against me, and we need to come back to center and learn how to work and work together.
I love that answer. That's fascinating. Is there a disconnect between urban and rural living? You talk about that center that you're trying to come back to. Where do you think maybe the great misunderstanding lies?
I think the misunderstanding lies in that we both think we're right. The urban core,
a little ethnocentric.
Yeah, it's that idea of well, those people, and we need to learn the sense of what community is, and community can be a location, but it can also be just a commonality that, it doesn't matter if you're in rural America or if you're in urban America, we're all Americans.
Yep.
And if we're not all working it together and rowing the boat in the same direction, then we're not going to make it to where we want to go.
Right.
And maybe we don't know where we want to go, but I assure you that if we're not working together, we're never going to get anywhere.
Yeah. There's some appreciation in it, isn't there? I'm trying to think, what's that, Hank Williams song, A Country Boy Can Survive, where I send him homemade wine and he sends me pictures of the Broadway nights.
And it just, I think there's a fascination probably for people that live in the urban area of what rural life looks like. And I think there's a fascination for people that work or live in rural of what urban life looks like. And my wife and I, we were actually talking about this yesterday, and we have been blessed in that, we lived, we both grew up in rural areas. And then as adults, we made the choice to move to Kansas City. And so we lived in Kansas City for 7-8 years. And then obviously from there, then making the move back out to Lawson. But we said, what a blessing it was to live in the city, in that when we go there, we're not afraid of it.
Right.
And we know what to expect of it. And then we also have a much greater appreciation for moving back into a rural area such as Lawson, and what that brings for our family and what that brings for schools and opportunities for our son, and just the greater sense of community.
Yeah. So you use the word afraid. And what are some of the stereotypes, right? I mean, you think, is it of both? We could even go of both, of the city. And we say the city, what are we talking about? Are we talking suburbs? Are we talking
well, and
urban?
that's and isn't that a great question? Because you can go to Kansas City, but never go to the city.
Right.
You're in the Northland.
Yeah.
And I never felt, we lived in the Northland, and I never felt like in the Northland I lived in the city. I felt like I lived in like a Mayberry type of thing. I mean, our community was, everyone's grass was mowed. Everyone had sprinkler systems, and it was a competition of how green we could make the grass and how often we could cut it. But some would say that that's the city. But then you travel farther south and you get into the city. And it's a different world altogether. And, and I think when I say afraid of it, I think a part of that is like we're afraid of the unknowns, and we're afraid to get out of our comfort zone. And I look forward to going and exploring and looking at, different opportunities and seeing how other things are done. And now I don't explore very far out on my food choices. I'm not that exploratory, but definitely like to go and see different parts of the city and take in different types of the culture.
Yeah. Well, and we built this podcast around the stereotypes of small town living, right? I mean, everybody knows everybody, kind of.
But I don't even think that's true. We talk about that, and I would say that I don't know very many people in Lawson, Missouri, and partly my own fault, but partly also because I'm a transplant,
right?
And communities. I don't even know that it's a small town versus large town, but the idea of a transplant, you're like, well, you're not from here, so you don't understand. Well, you start to understand real quick what it is not to be from there.
Yeah,
And
I've been here for 15 years now, I think. Yeah, 15 or 16 years.
yeah.
And there are reminders that I didn't grow up
Yeah,
here
you
pretty
well,
regularly. And it's not negative. It's
yeah.
just, it is what it is.
It's factual.
Yeah.
It's just factual.
Yeah. I don't know the history, the 30-year, 40-year history of this family or this house or this part of town or,
But I think that's true anywhere.
Yeah.
And it's just maybe for our perspective of where we live, we take it and we see it more in the spotlight because we assume that that's a small town type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But my guess would be, and again, I haven't lived it, but my guess would be that it's the same no matter if you're in greater Kansas City in the urban areas or where you are. You know, people have their own perspectives.
Yeah. Well, my perspective I grew up in Independence. My perspective was formed there. And I would definitely say that's more city than country
for sure.
right now. But, in light of our conversation today about, ag education, the Future Farmers of America, kind of a program that we just started here in the Lawson School District, I have a lot to learn here. My grandpa was a farmer, kind of made his way through Colorado into Fort Scott, Kansas, had a family farm there in Lone Jack for a while. But then when my dad grew up in Independence, where they had moved to, all of the places that he kind of stomped around as a farm kid, urban sprawl had taken over at the time. So we grew up just 2 miles from where my dad grew up, but 20 miles, probably 15 miles from the nearest farm ground that looked like the type of property my dad used to grow up on. So I've always just kind of said I'm kind of in this mostly suburban environment, but I've got like urban or rural roots.
Sure.
And so it's been interesting as I moved out of Independence and into a more purely rural community that I've learned, right? I mean, I've started gardening here. I've cleaned more brush and property maintenance than I ever did when I was a kid. I've had exposure now to like livestock, row cropping, hobby farming on many levels. And my eyes have been open to a world that I just never considered. I mean, it really is amazing. And, I've talked, we met Stuart on a recent episode. We did the MR 340 together, and he and I have been friends for 12, 15 years. And through conversations with he and Amy, I mean, they've done rabbits, sheeps. They've got like guard dogs for their sheep.
Yeah.
Sheep showing, 4-H. And chatting with them is actually what kind of inspired this episode. Particularly Amy. She's had a very strong interest in ag education and helping me understand like the value of it. And she's worked for years to help bring the program.
Absolutely.
But it's not just any one person's ability to do it, right? It takes a community. There's a lot of money and a lot of effort that goes into these things. So, but when you have people like her and others such as yourself kind of fiercely advocating for the benefits of ag education, it can dramatically change the way a community can grow the next generation.
I would take that a step farther and say that it is imperative that we look at ways to grow our communities. And I believe that ag education, no matter if it's a future farmer, that we're going to somehow create through the program, or if it's just a smarter consumer of where your food comes from and how we get to where we want to go with just our food safety and consumption, and we're all consumers of food, and just having a better understanding of the whole makeup of what that looks like.
Yeah. So to get from where we are and or where we need to be, and to realize that there's this group of kids that's coming up right now who need to be educated on these things, we have to identify a conduit to go from here to there, A to B, right?
Absolutely.
And the Lawson School District this last year made the decision to bring FFA to Lawson.
Sure.
Yeah?
Yes.
So that's more or less what we'll talk through here. So I want to like maybe ask you, what is it? What is FFA? And, kind of help us understand the nuts and bolts of that. Then broaden the conversation a little bit just to help us understand how significant the ag industry is in the Midwest. And then maybe talk more specifically about how we'll use the FFA program to change the trajectory of the Lawson kids coming out of here and into that world.
Absolutely.
So what is FFA? Like history, traditions, and such.
I mean, Future Farmers of America is what we all know it to be. And then I can remember as a kid myself. I mean, I didn't grow up on a farm, and I didn't necessarily have a lot of interest in farming, but there were other aspects of it. And for me, what Future Farmers of America or National FFA organization is to me is just a place where you can find your home and find a place to belong. And I think that is when I came to Lawson and I started walking our hallways, and I see our kids, and I see just normal kids that are missing an opportunity to connect. We have 350 students walking in the hall. Maybe out of that, we have 60 or 70 that are in the band, and we have 30 or 40 that were in robotics. And we had 30 or 40 that were in FBLA, and we had maybe 20 or 30 involved in FCCLA. And then of course we have 75 kids that play football.
There's
and
athletics.
We have,
I was going to say,
and we have 30 that played softball. But even with all those pieces, there was still a group that, in my core, I believe that they didn't have a home.
Yep.
And the bigger piece of that is like, how do we get kids connected and give them a purpose? Because we talk about attendance, and we talk about the importance of showing up and being involved, but you have to have something that brings you back. And why do you want to be there? And what is that piece for you? And so I look back on my experience, and FFA and my ag classes really became that epicenter for me to feel like I belonged. And I look at myself as a very normal student. I was average. I was not bright flight by no means. I did my best, kind of, but but I just needed somewhere to lay my head on and be a part of. And so I think
so you're seeing FFA at its core as a community group.
It's a community group, and I think that even speaks to how our community has embraced it too. Everyone is, I say everyone, not everyone. I'm sure there are people that think that bringing FFA was not a good idea. And to them, I could venture to hear their arguments, and I could see their point.
Michael, if those people want to voice their concerns, they can do it on their podcast.
There you go. But what I would say is, not only within our school, but within our community as a whole, the idea, and it was an idea of wanting and having a desire for FFA to be a part of our community. And for me as well, I think a big piece of that comes with the quality of teacher that we have. And we've hired a very good young teacher that's leading our program, and Miss Triplett is doing a phenomenal job, and she's energized, and she's ready to make change and be a part of what we're doing here, and we hope to keep her for a long time and
awesome.
Continue to build for her what she needs to help to support our kids.
Right. So excellent overview. And when we talk about the center of community, and we talk about preparing kids for that next season of life, what does the next season of life hold for them, right? Particularly in the Midwest. So, can we talk a little bit about ag in the Midwest and the
Sure.
industry of products, services, farming, technology, education, research? In my independence way of approaching this, right? I kind of went to Google and I'm
Yeah.
like, what is the importance of ag education? You know what I mean? I'm trying to kind of get up to speed here, right? You're the expert, but corn, livestock, wheat, dairy, hobby farming, small farming pursuits, commercial farming pursuits. There are an immense amount of opportunity and those operations in the Midwest. One stat, and then I'll let you roll here. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics, of recent data, the agricultural, forestry, fishing, and hunting sections employ over 2 million people nationwide, with a significant portion of these jobs based in the Midwest. So we're not talking just this community of kids going out and having a community and something to talk about. We're talking about going out and needing to be employed, but 2 million people are serving productively.
The agriculture sector in the United States is the largest single employer of people when you take all pieces together.
Really?
When you look at all the components that go into it, I mean, you can connect almost everything back to agriculture in some regard. And the trades, I think, are a part of this conversation too, because we talk about agriculture and we talk about the importance for preparing our kids for the future and what does that look like. And, what I remember being in high school, and the conversation at that point was everyone had to go to college.
Mm-hmm.
You have to go to get a 4-year degree. You have to go get a 4-year degree.
Mm-hmm.
And what if you don't go to college, you're not going to make it. Well, how crazy is it in some regard, and not in others, is that 30 years later, now we're talking about you don't have to go to college.
Mm-hmm.
We need welders. We need plumbers. We need electricians. We need carpenters. We need concrete men. We need truck drivers and railroad engineers, and we need all these other pieces that all of a sudden now, like, oh, wait a minute, you don't have to just go to college.
Right. Yeah, I've heard you can make over $100 an hour at some of these different trades.
Oh, it's insane.
Yeah.
What a mechanic go get your car worked on, and what that cost, and you have to have those supports in place to make it all work.
Yep, completely agree. Shout out to Complete Auto in Richmond, Missouri. Looking for a sponsor for our next episode if you're hearing me, Mark. All right. Okay, yeah. And let's talk about the money side of the agriculture industry. One stat I found was the total value of agriculture products sold in the Midwest states combined exceeds $100 billion annual, billion with a B. That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
And I mean, from the tech side, the trends in automation, artificial intelligence, precision agriculture, I mean, these things are not cheap, but they do enhance efficiency.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like there's, it looks like this industry and the ag considerations, they just keep going with everything else.
Well, and there's all kinds of opportunity, and agriculture isn't just a Midwest piece. It's throughout our country and throughout our world. And an example I have of that is I had a student that I taught in high school, and he was a pretty smart kid, but he didn't know exactly what he wanted to do, but he knew he wanted to go to college. So he went up to Northwest Missouri, and he got a horticulture degree, and he went and took a job with a co-op out in Nebraska. And this was shortly after he got the job out there, and it was the middle of the winter, and it was miserably cold. I remember calling her, or he'd called me, and he said, Mr. Stephenson, I got my first job. I'm really liking this, but this is not what I want to do. And he said, I think I want to look at something different. And I said, well, his name is Shiloh Jones, or Shiloh Jones. I said, well, Shiloh, what are you wanting to do? And he said, I think I want to go to Hawaii.
Oh.
I said,
okay.
I'll go there too. You want to go to Hawaii? And he said, yeah, I put my resume in for a farm in Maui. And I said, really? Well, what is that? He said, well, it's C&H sugar. Well, like C&H sugar. Well, okay. They are the largest landowner in Hawaii, in Maui, and they produce more sugar cane than anyone in the world.
Oh my gosh.
But they had started what they were looking for was a horticulturist to come out, because they were looking at ways to start growing corn and start to create renewable energies for themselves, because all the energy for the island is ran by diesel powered generators, and so it's all brought from the states over, and all their power is generated through through these combustible engines. And so they were looking at ways to do that, and he's been out there ever since, and loves it, and has the best job. I mean, he's on the islands. He's living his best life, and he said he'll never come back. But here, the point of that is, though, that when we talk about agriculture and we think, oh, it's just got to, it's just farming, it's got to be the Midwest. You can go worldwide and live a really good life and be involved.
Yeah, and thank you for that. I mean, again, as I was preparing for this episode, I had limited it to farming. I mean, I was literally thinking, oh, it's FFA, it's farming. Yeah. But your points are right on. Let's talk about challenges and maybe some of the future trends in the industry. The people who are currently farming, I don't particularly see younger people being interested and passionate about farming and or these ag jobs, just from where I sit and the kids I'm talking with. So, is that an issue that we need to deal with here, or you're seeing too?
I believe so, and the older I get, the more I realize that we as a country, and again, this is my own personal opinion, but we are becoming weak, and that we don't know what true struggle is, and things are just provided. I look at my own son and his childhood and where he is now in his life versus where I was and what my life looked like are far different. And we want to provide, and I want to do that for him. But Certainly. At the same time, I think in a lot of ways I'm doing him an injustice in that providing without him having to put in the work for it. And so I use that analogy because I think that is kind of a small piece of what our country as a whole looks like right now. We don't know what real challenge is. We haven't fought a major war in almost 100 years. And so we are in a point in history where there's a sense of entitlement, and I don't mean just entitlement for special services of some sorts, but I mean entitlement for the most wealthy to the most impoverished. Everybody thinks somebody owes them something.
Sure.
And when am I getting mine? And so I think that's a big piece of the combination of where we are and how are we preparing our kids for the future. And I tie that back with farming. And first of all, who can afford to go into farming if they wanted to? Corporate farming is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's being bought up. Equipment is multi-million-dollar pieces of equipment. Our farmers are getting older. Their children are leaving the farm. They're going, and maybe they're working in agriculture, but they're working in a different type of agriculture.
Right.
It's a real challenge for us of how we survive and how we maintain the quality of life and the quality of food and everything that we have.
Yeah, that is interesting. And I don't know, when you were talking there about going through hard times, it reminded me of that quote. You probably have heard it. I'll butcher it, but I'll try. Hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men. Weak men create hard times.
Yeah.
And then it's like this
it's just
vicious
circle. History repeats itself.
Yeah. Yeah. So may we break that cycle by helping our kids be harder
Yeah.
with respect
Toughen 'em up.
with respect to these agriculture jobs, and to know and appreciate what we're living with and working through. So that's why we're talking about this program in Lawson. Yes.
Yes, for sure. And I just think there is such value in what an ag program can bring to a school and to a community, and just how it can bring, and I keep coming back to the sense of community, but I believe that there is such an importance in that, and that people have to feel like they belong. And I'm a true believer. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah,
in it.
I think the community would agree with you. I looked up this statistic just a few minutes ago. With more than 1,027,273 FFA members in 9,235 chapters in all 50 states, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands, the National FFA organization has a strong presence as the largest student-led organization in the nation.
Yeah.
So
It's
they
big.
agree with you too.
It's big.
Yeah, I mean that's the community that you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
And they're not all going home and getting on a tractor and or going into the hog barn or going out and feeding cows. They are everyday kids that just want to belong, that want to get leadership skills, that want to feel that they are valued, and that they have a place that they can be successful and participate and learn, and then I think become just smarter consumers and good stewards.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so that's why the school started the FFA program. Yeah,
absolutely.
So what are the school's primary goals?
I think our primary goal behind it is to be able to provide a place where our students can get an understanding of agriculture, maybe at the ground level, and learn some different skills. Maybe if those are shop skills, if those are horticulture skills, if those are leadership skills, public speaking, finance, business, foods, whatever it is, whatever is their interest, and be able to let them know that there's opportunity for them, that you can be a welder, and have a good life of that, if that's something you want to do. And, and right now, the question that was brought when we started the program and we approved the program a year ago is, well, what are we going to do for a shop? What are we going to do for, like, where's all these pieces come from? And it's going to cost a lot of money. And what are we going to do? And how's it all going to come together? And my response was, let's get the program started. And so what we've done is we have ag in a classroom.
Yeah, start with awareness.
We've not had to invest a ton of money into this program. We're starting from the ground up, and we're learning how to crawl before we can walk, and how to walk before we can run.
Right.
And it would have been wrong to go into this and say we need to build this type of space, or we need this type of greenhouse, or we need this type of school farm, or we need this, or we need that. Like, we don't know what we need yet.
Right.
All we know, we have interest. I mean, when we polled our kids about this time last year, I think we had about 80% of the high school that showed interest in ag. Now, did we think at that time that we were going to have 80% of the high school sign up for an ag class? Absolutely not.
Sure.
But we knew there was interest there.
Right.
When kids started signing up for classes, we knew that we were gonna have some serious interest there. And we have right now, I believe, right at 85 students that are in a high school ag class, grades 9 through 12, and another 25 that are in 8th grade that are doing some explore classes.
That's incredible.
It's over 100 kids, grades 8 through 12 in year one.
Yeah.
And those are big numbers.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of work on a teacher. And so, again, we're learning the basics. We're preparing them and teaching them what the basic knowledge of what FFA is.
Yeah.
What is agriculture? You know, I mean, we think we know what agriculture is, but there's so much more to it than row cropping and livestock. And so just trying to create that that education to them of the founding principles and the baseline.
Right. So I hear that, and what I'm hearing is we're starting with the academic side, right?
Yes.
The awareness, the knowledge of, kind of what comes with these things. What else is there to explore? And I mean, I hear you talking about it as if I know what I'm talking about. I don't. I mean, are we talking you would typically see some high schools building a greenhouse or building a shop?
Oh, absolutely.
And they're welding in school?
Oh yeah. There are all kinds of opportunity for that. And in fact, our ag teacher, Ms. Triplett, she had went and had taken part in a national institute this past summer before she came to Lawson to teach, and learned all kinds of skills with ag mechanics. And and then she had an opportunity along the way with that too to apply for a grant, knowing that we didn't have a true shop. And how do we start to teach and put our kids into some hands-on learning pieces? And so she was able to apply for and received a grant to purchase a virtual welding machine. And so we're in the process of getting that set up, and that'll be something that she will start to be able to put into our classroom and do some hands-on learning within the classroom.
Right on.
Of showing and demonstrating and teaching kids how to weld virtual reality.
Okay.
So that's just that's a step in the right direction, but we know that with time, we're going to look at investing into some type of a facility, if that is shop space, if that is horticulture with greenhouse, if that is a combination of those two. Another piece that we have that we're quite blessed with is that leave town and head east. It's nothing but agriculture, and we have some large landowners and that are farmers that are living in our district that are supportive of our program, supportive of our school, and they are seeking out how can we help and how can we get kids involved. And
wonderful.
I think the opportunities are endless for what our program can look like, and to say right now that it's going to be A, B, and C,
right?
I can't do that justice and say that's exactly what it's going to be.
Right. So let's maybe dial back a bit. You're a year in, 100 kids, amazing.
Or 6 months in.
Thank you. 6 months, 100 kids, even more amazing.
Yeah.
Like thinking, short-term, long-term goals. Where do you see the program in 5 years? I mean, because that's on the edge of stuff that we can start planning and preparing for now.
I see the program in 5 years becoming the example of what an ag program should look like and feel like for a school our size.
Okay.
And I base that off, not to say that others are doing it wrong, but I think you have to have equal parts. You have to have a mixture of what hands-on learning looks like, plus what FFA part of things look like, and then also part of that of what the general ag experience is. We talk about the 3-circle model in agriculture: SAE, classroom, and FFA, and you put the three together.
SAE,
supervised ag experiences.
There it is.
And so
I knew it. I was trying to think. I read it earlier.
You start putting these things together, and I think that's where in 5 years that we can start to build on, and providing our kids with those opportunities to, rather that maybe it is that they worked a summer job, or they are going to do some type of a research project to get a better understanding of what agriculture is, or what a need for the community is. The Kauffman Foundation, in fact, out of Kansas City, this is their real world learning aspect of what they talk about. Ties great with FFA.
Sure.
You look at like a Kearney and their ag program over there, and the pieces that they've been able to bring in from the Kauffman Foundation and how they've been able to integrate those into it are pretty fascinating how they're doing that. For us, I think we have. I think the upward movement that we have is immense over the next 5 years. I could see us potentially growing the program into the need for a second teacher. Maybe that is because of a mixture of moving into the middle school and into the high school side of things. I could see that involving a shop space. I could see that involving a greenhouse. I could see that involving some type of hands-on pieces where we have some opportunity to do some actual gardening or, different things that maybe otherwise I wouldn't have. But I just think there's such possibility. And also the other part of it, and which is probably where my passion as a teacher laid more into, is the business side of it. I as a teacher, I got to where I really liked the math part of it, and I liked the leadership part of it, and I liked the idea of sales and marketing and promotion and how all that comes to be. And I think there's such a key component there that we can look at ways to take from not just our ag program, but our fax program, our business program, our robotics, like all of them, and get all of them working together.
I was going to say there's an, to your point earlier, there's an agriculture component to all of them. Yeah.
Every one of them. And I think that is, for me, the biggest challenge, not challenge, the biggest piece that I want to make sure that didn't get missed as we started the program was that I didn't want it to be or feel as though we're starting FFA, so something else has to go. I didn't want it to be, well, we're starting this, so that means we're no longer going to do this program.
Right.
Everyone's got a space, and making sure that everyone can maintain their space and maintain their identity, but then also looking at ways like, okay, how do we work together?
Yeah.
How do we do these things together, and how do we improve the overall experience for all of our kids?
I love that, and nobody says we had another kid, so the oldest one has to go.
Exactly.
Right? No, you say, no, we had another kid. This is a great thing for our family, and we'll figure it out.
I mean,
because that's awesome.
The skills that our students are learning in our robotics program are fascinating,
right?
And the coding and just the ability to fabricate a machine and for it to do the things that it does are just unbelievable. And our FCCLA programs and the program or the projects that they're doing there to, for community engagement and for, just overall understanding of what's going on in the world around them and, the different charity things that they're doing and just ways to bring awareness to situations is wonderful stuff.
Right.
And in FFA or ag education can just be another part of that onion and another peel to it to get us to be better.
So how do you see the current program impacting the current community? I mean, because that's like what you're talking about. I mean, you can get out now. I mean, are we doing anything now, or is there anything planned to be in the community at large?
I think right at the current moment, the biggest focus has been and will continue to be at this point is to making sure that we're getting a sound baseline knowledge for kids of what ag education is, what FFA is, because we talk about it as ag education, and then you gave the numbers, the statistics of how many kids are in FFA. The driving force is the FFA chapter. I mean, it's the blue jacket.
Yeah.
That is what we know, and that is what we take pride in.
What is the blue jacket?
Well, some would say it's a cult.
Okay. We put the cult in culture.
We put the cult in culture for sure. There is I have such pride in my FFA jacket. As a high school student, I had a letterman's jacket, and I was successful and was part of some successful sports teams, and I was a runner and had some success in track and field. But I'll be honest with you, I don't have my Letterman's jacket. I threw it away. Now I regret that in some regards. Now that I threw it away, I don't need this thing. Never. So I threw it away. I was
went
getting
through
married,
a minimalist phase myself.
getting married and moving, and I threw my Letterman's jacket away. But I'll tell you this: I didn't throw away my FFA jackets.
Mm-hmm.
I have a chapter jacket, I have an area officer jacket, and I have a state officer's jacket. And I was blessed to be a part of all three levels of that in the organization. And they are the most important pieces of probably my high school like past, and that I cherish those.
Yeah.
And it means a lot to me. And
the jacket is it's kind of a identifying.
It's very much an
signet.
It very much is. We had our veterans breakfast in November, and we had our FFA kids. Not all of them, but a good group of them help with serving the breakfast that morning for our veterans. And it was intentional that we wanted to showcase our FFA kids. We wanted to showcase the jacket is what we wanted to showcase.
Sure.
Because our community coming in and seeing our students with that blue jacket on, and it says Lawson FFA on the back of it, there's a pride that comes with that. And I talked at the very beginning of our time together here about the sense of pride in this community. There's a pride, and now that we have a FFA chapter too,
right,
and we haven't even done anything yet,
right.
But there's a pride with it, and they don't know why. I mean, but they know that this is something we want, and it's going to be good stuff.
Well, it's celebrated online. I did some research here on this. Do you know what year the FFA jacket was first created?
33.
1933. You're right. On average, how many FFA jackets are sold annually?
I couldn't tell you.
90,000.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. And they're like a blue corduroy.
Oh yeah,
that's hot.
Yeah, I mean everybody wants one.
And you probably know this. This is one I didn't understand. I mean, there's several others here, but what's the maximum number of pins that should be worn on the front of an FFA jacket?
You can wear 3.
Yeah. Why? What are the 3?
You can wear your highest office. So if you're an officer, that you can wear, that's 1 pin. Your highest degree, so you could be a green hand, you could be a chapter farmer, you could be a state degree or an American degree. So there's levels of degree, and then you can wear your highest award. So if you were involved in a career development event or a speaking event or whatever, so it's officer, highest office, highest degree, and highest award.
Okay, very good. Yeah, and then nothing else, right? We're not putting anything else on that.
No.
Like this is what we're about.
Yeah,
this is the jacket. We wear it.
Your name is on the front with your three the max of your 3 pins on the front, and then it's Missouri on the top and Lawson FFA on the bottom.
So I kind of like that, and I'll tell you why. Because I don't want to say is you talk about as you make personal observations of your kids and the culture around that your kids are growing up in, maybe that you weren't growing up in. As interested as I am in celebrating people's unique identities and individualities, I don't necessarily think everything needs to be celebrated like that, right? I'm trying to be nice about it, but like let's identify with something bigger than ourselves here, right? And this culture, this community practice or whatever. That's what we're trying to celebrate here. That's why you wear the letter jacket, right? You got the big fat L, right? To show which school you're a part of and, different things. But, I mean, I like that. I like the simplicity of it.
Well, and the other part of it is that as a freshman, you can come in and you can purchase your FFA jacket and you belong,
right?
Once you put that jacket, I mean, there's again, like you said, I mean, it's not the coolest thing in the world. I mean, the jacket hasn't changed. I mean, it's been around since 1933. FFA's been around since 1928.
That seems pretty timeless to me. That's cool.
It's classic. Yeah. And there's just a pride that comes with it that I can't wait for, 10, 15, 20 years from now, as we start to see in this community, the kids that were on the front end of creating this program, when they start to have kids and their kids start to come through the program, that is when we will start to see some real, just change in how it all comes together. And
Do they fit afterwards? People are buying them, and
well,
can you-
you should probably buy it a size or two bigger than what you need as a freshman to make sure you don't need to buy another one. I wouldn't want to try to put on my freshman FFA jacket today. I will say that.
That's
but
awesome.
My state jacket would probably fit. It would be a little snug.
Yeah. All right. So being an FFA member yourself, what's the biggest lesson you learned about yourself maybe, and as a result of your participation in the program? And then how do you see these new students being impacted like that?
I think for me personally, the biggest lesson I learned was how to be with myself. And what I mean by that is we have opportunities to be involved in sports teams. We have opportunities to be involved with different organizations and different opportunities, with just within our communities. But at the heart of it, like, how do we, when no one's around and we're all by ourselves, how are we comfortable with ourselves? And how do we know who we are? And for me, FFA really helped me bring that out and have a better understanding of who I am, what I believe in, and what I can do for myself. And so I think that's the biggest lesson, the biggest takeaway. I remember being a freshman in college and taking a trip out to Colorado. First time I'd ever really left home and went by myself somewhere. And I went out and I'd met some friends that showed sheep, and I was going to go out and help them at the Colorado State Fair. And I took a risk, and I hadn't been away from home much, but my understanding of what I was going to go do and how I was going to go do it, but also being willing to go out and be by myself. And I think that was a big piece for me.
That's awesome. And that was an opportunity that this program provided.
100%.
So what type of other learning, hands-on or otherwise, opportunities do you think will be available to students of the FFA program here?
Well, we recently took 7 or 8 kids out to the National FFA Convention. And so they had an opportunity. The officer,
where is that?
Indianapolis.
Okay.
So back in October, November, took the officer team. I actually went with them. I went with Miss Triplett to help her as a chaperone, and we went out and the kids, that group of kids, as our officer team, had the first experience as Lawson FFA members going to a national convention.
Yeah.
And so really, they got the hands-on experience for the leadership side of things. Then back in the fall too, we took kids up to Northwest Missouri State University for a fall FFA contest, FFA knowledge contest, and the kids did very well, and they got their first taste of what competition looks like. We're getting ready to embark on a spring contest season here in about 2 weeks. We'll take our first group of kids and go over to Brunswick for a career development event, career contest, spring contest.
Yep.
And the kids that'll go that day will have this experience that they've never experienced before. We'll go into the Brunswick High School, and Brunswick is an old school.
Sure. Is that right along the Missouri River?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is.
Yep.
And we'll go in that day, and we'll pull in the parking lot, and the parking lot will be filled with school buses. I mean, and there will be close to 2,200 students from across the state of Missouri.
That's bigger than the town.
Oh yeah. It's probably 10 times the size of the town.
I was gonna say.
But there'll be about 2,200 kids that'll show up that day to compete in different competitions: livestock events, poultry events, horticulture events, soils events, FFA knowledge events, flowers, entomology, all these different opportunities to learn from. And what they will gather from that is, one, I mean, they're going to compete, and they're going to compete in a content area and see how they do there. But the other part of it too is just the experience of, like, holy cow, there's a lot of kids here.
Yeah, that's exciting and motivating.
And being a part of that, and it creates where they want more of it.
Yeah.
And so that's an opportunity for them. This summer, we're taking a group, and they're going to go down to the FFA camp at the Lake of the Ozarks.
Oh, brilliant.
I think Miss Triplett has taken, I think she's taking like a dozen kids down there, and they'll spend a week at the lake, they'll rough it in cabins with no air conditioning, and have time at the lake and leadership events and different opportunities to learn and grow, and just really to get a better understanding of who they are and how they work together. Then just the day-to-day things that they do in class, and I mean, from tasting milks to learning how to put an injection into a banana for proper way to put an injection into an animal. I mean,
Wow.
there's just lots of opportunities for them.
I'm thinking about the Napoleon Dynamite movie.
Oh yeah,
where he identifies the extra nipple and he tastes the milk and there's like got into an onion patch or something.
Yeah, and that's real stuff. It's real stuff. Yeah,
So good.
So, but definitely lots of opportunities for all those types of things, and then helping our kids that maybe they worked at the car wash. It seems like every time I go through the car wash in Excelsior, there's a Lawson kid there. But if they're working at the car wash and how that connects in with a job and an ag experience for them, that's a placement type of work. And,
Sure.
Maybe they're working for a farmer outside of town and they're doing some things like that. Maybe they're working for an auctioneer. Maybe they're, whatever it is. There's just lots of opportunity involved.
That's awesome. And the opportunities, sounds like Miss Triplett is involved with all of them. And maybe going back a bit to a previous comment you made in our time together, is the significance of hiring the right staff.
Absolutely.
Can we talk a little bit about her? Because I mean, you talk qualifications and experience. If that person is doing it well, then the whole program is going to kind of go with them.
Oh,
so this was a huge decision.
It was a huge decision for us, and we were very fortunate to get Miss Triplett to come to Lawson. If you didn't know it, there's a teacher shortage going on throughout the country.
It seems like there's a shortage of a lot of things. But
there's a shortage. There's a shortage of everything. We're not for sure where all the people have went, but there's a shortage. And so that was a key part of our program, and really the path for success for our program was pivotal on the hire for our first teacher. And Ms. Triplett came out of not Northwest. She came out of Mizzou, and she was by far the most highly recommended to us out of any of their student teachers that they had in the program. She was heavily involved in FFA, served as a state officer, comes from a farming background. Her family is from Northeast Missouri.
Fantastic.
Pretty major farming operations they have. And she just has such a sense of just a calming sense about her, and very wise beyond her years. I would say, as a first-year teacher, seeing her and knowing how I was in my first year, I am amazed at the maturity she has, because I know in year one for me, I didn't have quite that same maturity level.
Sure.
And she has done an amazing job of working with a lot of different types of kids and taking it and really starting to build the foundation for what we need.
That's awesome. And Miss Triplett, if you're listening, that sounds like job security to me. So congratulations. You're doing an awesome work here in L-Town. But, again, just to kind of build on that, a good teacher has the ability to take content that you might not think is relevant or applicable to you and make it come alive and show you how it is important to you. And they can take a kid whose life is going one direction, and then as a result of just a comment or a kind word, they can alter the course of a student's life.
And that's where public schools play such a pivotal role and to the lives of our kids and the future of our community is, how are we preparing them for the future? And are we taking a genuine interest in them and helping them get to where they need to go and where they want to go? And sometimes where they need to go and want to go are two different places, but helping them guide through that decision-making process.
Sure.
We have a lot of good staff. I would be remiss if I had said, didn't just recognize that. Miss Triplett is doing a phenomenal job, but across the board, our teachers and our administrators in Lawson are top notch. and we're very blessed to have all of them.
I completely agree. I mean, that was one of the primary reasons that we moved to Lawson. We talk about the stereotypes. We spent some time in Liberty, lived there for 5 or 6 years, and one of my concerns, growing up in the quote unquote city, was you're going to move to a small town, and Lawsonites don't hate me here. Don't shoot the messenger. But I was thinking, man, I small town people aren't as smart as people from the big city. And I'm like, that's not true. That was never, whatever. No. And you take one look at test scores, you take one look at whatever, Lawson is beating 5A school districts, 6A school districts in math and science and whatnot. And I'm like, holy crap, this place is awesome. Well, and then I was immediately transformed.
Yeah. And just start talking to people within the community and finding out who like our former graduates and where they are and what they're doing and how are they involved in different worlds and different academias. Yeah. And just, there's a lot of very, very successful people that have come out of the Lawson schools, and that's not by accident.
Right. Well, let's talk about that success and what success looks like, maybe even how you measure it. What are some measurable outcomes that can be used to assess the FFA program here in the future? What are some things we could do to determine whether or not what we're doing is successful?
Well, I think on the surface level, the first things we can look at is our sheer numbers of kids that are in the program, and then look at year 2, how many kids are still in the program and how many new students have come into the program, and where are we at with that? Because if it's going to be successful, you got to have kids involved and you got to have buy-in. And so that'll be a very measurable piece of it, and one that we can reflect on, be like, okay, what do we need to do different, or how do we need to continue to grow with the energy we have?
Completely agree. I've said for years, people vote with their time and they vote with their money. And so you got a lot of podcasts you could listen to. So taking the time to listen to this one is a great way to tell me if I'm doing my job or not.
If you're doing it the way people want it done.
Yeah. And so
I think another measurable piece for us will be how successful we are with getting our kids involved with these extracurricular pieces that are FFA and that are tied to the classroom. I mentioned that we were taking some students and they're going to be going to Brunswick here in a couple of weeks and competing, and what's the success they have there, and how are they competing against their peers from other schools, and what does that look like for us? What is our participation in different FFA events and FFA camps, and are we going to grow, or are we going to be able to get to a point where we have kids involved beyond the local level and area competitions and state competitions, and just the FFA side of it, I think, and how are we getting kids to participate and put together record books and go out and compete. FFA is not much different really than football, basketball, softball, any of it. It's competitive.
Right.
And how are we stacking up against others? I always prided myself, and I told Ms. Triplett this when she was hired, and I've spent a lot of time with her as we've worked through this, starting this program, is I always prided myself on, as a teacher, and of course I spent 14 years at Mid-Buck as an ag teacher. When our bus showed up in the parking lot and we were coming to be there, I wanted them to know that we were there.
AC/DC music playing.
It was,
you guys walk out with your shades and your Beats headphones.
We were coming to compete, and we weren't just coming to compete. We were coming to win.
Yeah.
And we did a lot of winning.
Yeah.
And it took a lot of work, and that took a lot of work from kids, and it took a lot of work for me to get them there. But I know just looking at from my own experiences as a student that was involved with FFA, to a teacher involved with FFA, and now as an admin involved, we have the winning combination to get our kids where we want them to go, and to be that example of what a solid program looks like.
Very, very good. And And then, with respect to measuring that at the next level, right? That's the existing level. How do you see or measuring the FFA program influencing students' decisions to pursue these careers? I don't even know if there is a way to measure it, or just people come back and tell you what they did.
I think for some, they don't know what they don't know. And if we can expose them, because exactly, unless they come back and tell us, right? But we do follow-ups with our seniors.
Sure.
And we know where our students are.
Oh, yeah.
But by giving them positive interactions through 4 years of high school, and then, now for our students that are in 8th grade, and if they went through the 8th grade program and into the high school program, and they go through 4 or 5 years of ag education at Lawson, and they're coming out of that program or coming out of our program and moving on, the possibilities of it could change a career path for a kid where they thought they wanted to be something one direction, but then they realize, like, hey, this ag thing, this isn't too bad of an option either. And looking at different opportunities within agriculture that maybe blend themselves with what they thought. Journalism. There's ag journalism is a major part of the whole scheme of what agriculture and the industry is.
Right.
Medicine. Maybe a kid wanted to be a doctor, but they realized they want to be a veterinarian. Maybe they want to be a mechanic, but they don't want to go work down at the car dealership. They want to go work for John Deere.
Sure.
Or
sure.
whatever that might look like for them.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. And I've only have this one life I've lived, but my experience has told me that as well. I went to Northwest Missouri State, initially wanted to be a teacher. My mom, awesome teacher through a couple of different Missouri school districts, inspired me to want to go in that direction, right? And I spent 1/2 of one semester in a practicum class with students on the Horace Mann local deal. And I'm like, this is not for me. So, you get exposed to something and you think, okay, this is the direction I want to go. But through that, I realized, this isn't for me. And I found, another business school that more aligned with what I was interested in. And, so that's exactly like what you're trying to accomplish here.
There's just all kinds of opportunities. And some of the jobs that, that are ag related, they haven't necessarily been even created yet. We are living in such a unique time, and I'm sure our parents felt the same. Every generation feels the same of that. But we are moving at warp speed in how the world is changing around us, and so preparing and trying to know what the future looks like and what the future job outlooks are going to look like. There's just such unknown out there, but just by preparing our kids and by giving them the soft skills, I think, at the core of it, as I really stop and think about what this program does for kids, is it allows them to have exposure to agriculture as a whole. But if they take advantage of the things that they're doing in their classroom and the opportunities they have to get outside of the classroom and soft skills, how do you talk to people? How do you interact? How do you prepare a resume? How do you present yourself? We talk about FFA and official dress, and like there are just such skills that come from just being a part of it. And
they're transferable across all industries.
Everywhere.
Very good. All right. Anything that you want to talk through that we haven't discussed today?
I don't think so. I think the biggest piece of the message I hope for people to understand is that we're excited to have the opportunity to bring the program to life in Lawson. Board of Education was highly influential in that, and community as a whole was. And we're just excited to see where it goes, and can't wait to be a part of it.
That's awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure to have you on today, to get to know you personally and professionally, and to learn so much more about FFA than I ever thought I would. And, I'm really excited to see the program grow. I still have 3 kids in the school district, and to see them have this opportunity is just one more reason to why I love this place.
Well, I couldn't agree more with everything you just said there, and appreciate the time with you today.
You bet. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for your time today as well. This has been the Son of the Law podcast. Have a great day.